everyone. You are welcome to an episode of my law class at Abdullahi Legal Academy. My name is Abdullahi Adebayo Abdulrauf, and in this episode, we shall be discussing the introduction to criminal law. And under this episode, we shall be discussing the concept of crime, and we shall be explaining the definition of crime, and we shall also be explaining the definition of criminal law. Now, the concept of crime. The word crime does not have a universally acceptable definition, as it's even more difficult. We combine it with law, as in criminal law. The reason for this difficulty is that law and crime are both complex terms that are capable to express different concepts to different groups of people. For instance, if you are to construe the meaning of crime, a moral philosopher will call it an immorality, while a theologian will call it a sin. At the same time, a behaviorist will call it a behavioral disorder, a social scientist will call it an antisocial behavior, and an ethnologist will call it a taboo. In addition, the word crime is now a subject of recurring interest, and in recent years, it has become a major topic of public debates. Different explanations are now given to different crimes and offenders. For instance, you will see people talk about white collar crimes, classic crimes, medal crimes, heinous crimes, petty crimes, cyber crimes, and so on and so on. It must be stated that the need for law, and criminal law in particular, lies in the history of the human race. In the early times when the first human being appeared on earth, there were no need for criminal laws because there were no conflicts. No need for criminal law because there are no conflicts. However, when people began to live in families, groups, community, or society, not generally, and even criminal law in particular became necessary. People as individuals and groups have their desires, their needs, and their wants, which are usually different from those of others. These differences is always the cause of conflict that the law tries to resolve. So throughout the history, the creation of law generally and criminal law in particular has always been dictated by the necessity to regulate and promote social behavior as a means of social control. The enforcement of law generally and criminal law in particular has always been the concern of every society. In rural society, for example, or even in the olden days, these are done by friends, family members, peer groups, and even neighbors who criticize, correct, and even ostracize those that violate the folks. The traditional ways. But in a complex society of today, laws will have to intervene to correct such behaviors that are not acceptable in the society. And as such, laws are enforced through a well-articulated criminal justice system that makes provision for both substantive laws and procedural laws. Together, the substantive criminal law and the procedural criminal law form the foundation of the Nigerian criminal justice system. And when they are put together, they help us in answering the following questions like: which behavior should be considered as a crime under our penal code? Which circumstance would such behavior constitute a crime? What punishment should legitimately be imposed on people who commit such behavior? How should those punishments be administered? And which rules to govern the process of investigation, arrest, and prosecution? What are the elements that should be considered before coming to the conclusion that a particular offense has been committed? It is the understanding of these questions and answers to them that establishes the criminal justice process in a very modern society. And naturally, the first step in an effort to answer the question is to define what a crime is. And this will lead us to another class where we shall be explaining the definition of a crime. See you in the next class. Abdullah Abdul is my name, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn with my username that is showing now on your screen. Meet you in the next class. Thank you very much.